Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I am so excited because today I have my mom Jan with us and I have my sister Jennifer with us, and this is an exciting video because these two ladies have been homeschooling for a long time, and it's really kind of like 3 generations of homeschool moms here because my mom and then my sister's about 12 years older than me, so she is kind of nearing her end journey of homeschooling, and then me, I'm pretty much just starting out on my homeschool journey. So we are going to answer some questions that you guys have given me today. I asked on Instagram, what are some homeschool questions that you have for us, and you guys gave me some awesome ideas. So I kind of took from that, kind of made some other additional questions. So we've got about 5 or 6 that we're going to hit on today, and I just hope this will be helpful for you. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about my experiences because I'm still fairly new. So most of this interview, I'm just going to kind of let these two chat, but I'll chime in from time to time. I am going to start with my mom. She's just going to tell you guys a little bit about herself and her homeschool journey. Take it away.
My name is Jan, and I homeschooled for about 17 years. I have 4 children. I homeschooled Jennifer, which is right there, for she started in the 2nd grade, so I homeschooled her all the way through, starting at the 2nd. Then I homeschooled my 2nd one, Ben, all the way through. Then I homeschooled Isaiah, our 3rd one, all the way through. And then Anna, we homeschooled her till the 7th grade. And then I went into teaching at a Christian school, and she went with us. Each of them are very successful. The oldest one is Jennifer, and she is a nurse. She went to got her BSN in nursing school. And then I have Ben, who is my 2nd one. He's a principal at elementary school. And then I have Isaiah. He owns his own business. He does contracting and construction. Then I have Anna, who does photography and homeschools her kids.
It's a very successful YouTube business. Not. Tell us about yourself.
I'm a mom and homeschool mom first, and wife, and then I have 3 children. My oldest will be 20 in September. He is in his 2nd year of college, starting in August. He
At Lee University.
had dual enrollment credit, so he'll actually be a junior when he starts in August. He's going to do public relations and marketing and graphic design, and then he also works at Chick-fil-A right now. And then my 2nd born is Luke, and he is 16. He will be 11th grade this fall. He works part-time with my brother, who's a contractor. And then my youngest is 12, Lydia. She'll be 7th grade starting in the fall. This will be our 17th year, maybe 16th or 17th this fall. And then I work as a nurse. I worked in a hospital during COVID. I was on the COVID floor, so I do kind of step down critical care. And I've been doing that 23 years.
And she's being modest because Drew, super smart, and he got almost all his college paid for. He got the Chick-fil-A scholarship and all kinds of scholarships, and he's doing really good. So we're very proud of him. Okay, so the first question we're gonna hit is, why did you start homeschool, and are you glad you did it?
I had gone to college to be a teacher, and so had my husband. And so my goal was to be a teacher and get a paycheck. And then we had Jennifer right after we got out of college. I got pregnant, so I taught from January to May. So then I thought, oh good, I'll be at home for a little while. So my husband said, well, I think we need to start homeschooling. And I did not really want to. I thought, oh, it's gonna take up all my time, And then we had Jennifer, and Jennifer was having headaches at school. So I took her to get her eyes checked, went to the pediatrician, and he just kind of put it that he didn't really know. So I had gone to the school, and I sat there one day and watched, and I talked with the teacher, and Jennifer had finished all her work, and then she was picking up all these little sheets and doing more work. So I asked her, I said, why is she doing that? She said, well, she gets finished so early. She likes to kind of be busy, so she does more. So we kind of came to that conclusion that was what it was. She was just doing too much. So that
was too smart for public school.
Something. I mean, then she would even help the other kids. So we thought, no, this is not going to work. So that's when the Lord put on my heart, well, you need to come home and teach her. So that's what we did. We started homeschooling Jennifer, and I am glad I did it. At first it was a little tough, and then as we went on, I was really glad. And then as it was over, and I had kids who were already functioning in society with good jobs, and started getting my children that would say, Mama, thank you so much for doing this. And I mean, you know, they're in their 40s, you know, and they're telling me thank you. And so that meant a lot.
Well, it speaks to itself when all of us have chosen to homeschool. I feel like you can say that you were successful with it because we clearly all had a good experience with it.
And that was my prayer, that they would, because I knew how, even though Bob and I had taught in school, and my son Ben's he's actually a principal there, he does not want his kids to go to school. And it's nothing against public school, I mean, but we knew for us, that's not what we wanted to do. We wanted to teach them God's ways and have the influence in their life instead of a teacher in a different school.
And we first started thinking about homeschooling. I had pretty much always wanted to homeschool because I was homeschooled from 2nd grade on, and then when you came along, Mama let me do some of the teaching. I helped you with phonics and learning to read and that kind of stuff, and so I always kind of had a hand helping the younger ones. And then, you know, we had planned, David and I, from the time we got married, for us to try to live on one income so that when we did have kids, that if I chose to stay there and be with the kids, that, you know, it wasn't a huge strain on our finances for us to be able to do that. And David he was an only child, my husband, and he had never really known anybody that homeschooled, so he was not opposed, but he was really kind of curious. So I ended up taking him to a homeschool convention when Drew was about 3 or 4, and he was very surprised at the range of personalities and religious affiliations that were associated with homeschool.
And when he saw the statistics of the graduation rate and the
I think
scores.
Really what convinced him, it's kind of strange, is talk radio. When he started hearing about all of the things on talk radio that were being taught in the public schools, and then he started comparing his experience and how isolated he felt, and how he was intellectual kid, and he was very, very shy, and so he felt a lot of not really bullying, but he didn't feel like he had any good relationships formed because of school. And so I think he really wanted something different for his kids, you know, and we had a concern about what was being taught and with our religious convictions, and we wanted them to be influenced for the kingdom and to be world changers, and we didn't feel like the system that we had around us would work. So he was on board from day one. He just wanted to kind of get some ideas about it and kind of get a picture of what it would look like before we committed to it. So it wasn't a hard decision for us. I wanted to do it, so that was a different experience for me in that regard. And both of our parents were supportive. My parents, of course, were, because, you know, they did it. His parents didn't say a lot at the beginning, but they were not negative. So that was also another blessing that we didn't have.
And have they said things as the years have gone by, now that they see how successful the kids are?
I definitely think I've seen, especially his parents, you know, telling other people that, you know, they homeschool. You know, I think they're proud of it now. I think in the beginning they were kind of sitting back waiting to see if it was going to work, you know.
Yeah. We're going into our 3rd year of homeschooling this year, so it's fairly new to us, but we started because we just really felt the call from the Lord to do it, and we had wrestled with it for kind of a while, and finally we just said, COVID kind of pushed us finally over, and we just decided that we were going to do it, and we wanted to be the sole influence in our kids' lives, and we wanted to make sure they had a solid Christian foundation and a solid knowledge of the Word, and we wanted them to be world changers and influence lives for the kingdom. So that's been our main objective, and we are very glad we did it, and we are really loving it.
Everybody starts, I think, homeschooling for different reasons, but if you continue for length of time, it usually turns into a conviction or a real heart calling that keeps you homeschooling. That's what I've felt like. You know, sometimes you may start it for educational reasons or for circumstantial reasons, you know, kids going through a rough time, but if you end up doing it for years, it really has to be
a
calling
happened
from
with
God.
you because you started, so Jennifer would be more challenged, and then it kind of changed over the years.
And then I kind of thought, well, I'll just do it through the end of this year. And then we really kind of liked it. We loved the flexibility. We loved to be able to be finished, and we all go to the store or all go do something with the grandparents, or so that part we really enjoyed. And just as time went on, we just continued. So
Okay, the next question, what's your biggest piece of advice to moms just starting out? And we were talking a little bit about these questions last night. And one thing we all agreed that was unanimous is the first thing before you start homeschooling is you need to make sure that you have discipline for your children lined up, like that is under control, and you have a good relationship with them. And if you don't have those two things, I'm going to link a great video below by Elliott on discipline. And this is kind of what we all follow on how we discipline our kids. And it works, and it's biblically sound, and it will change your whole life. It's wonderful. And I would really recommend before you start homeschooling to spend several months with your kid trying to really develop a relationship, because if they've been gone at school 8 hours, 5 days a week, then more than likely you haven't gotten to spend a whole lot of time with them to really nurture and develop that relationship. And now things are about to change. You're about to be with your kid 24/7. So you have to make a few adjustments. You kind of have to de-school, unschool for a little bit, learn how to not be like public schooled, and you have to really work on developing that relationship with them. So spending time with them, reading books to them, taking them places, just spending a lot of one-on-one time, not sitting in front of the TV watching TV together. That's not one-on-one time, but like playing games with them, like just time with just you two, really learning who they are. And that will also help you when you're trying to figure out curriculum and things like that, because you'll really know kind of how they learn and what works best for them. So you really have to get to know your child first and make sure that the discipline is intact, because when you start homeschooling and your kids are just out of control, you probably won't be very successful with your homeschool, because it's really hard to get anything done when children will not listen to you and when they won't obey you. So we highly recommend to work on those two things first, right? Y'all have anything you want to add? Okay, so what's your biggest piece of advice to moms starting out? What's something you wish somebody would have told you when you first started out?
I'm kind of type A and overachiever, so for me, I think I wish somebody would have said just to enjoy all the moments and not to feel like you had to check every box and do every page. I think I put a lot of pressure on myself in the very beginning. When Drew was in kindergarten, my husband lost his job, and he had to stay home for about 11 months, and I ended up going back to work full time. So we traded off homeschooling. I worked night shift at the hospital, and that year, while it was a great year and God taught us so many things through it, I think I had a lot of pressure to just make sure that, everything was done. So even on days when I was sleeping, I would get up and go back over all the schoolwork. And, now looking back, I know that at 5 years old, if he had not done any school that year, he would have still been just as smart as he is now and just as adaptable and adjusted. So I think that would have eased me a little bit, just relying more on intuition and the Lord's grace and his promptings than just trying to make sure every little dot was, dotted and every T was crossed, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I was a little bit the same way, but I remember going to bed at night thinking, oh, they're going to be so dumb. Oh, we didn't get that finished. Oh, and it would be hard on me personally instead of the kids. They were fine. But the biggest piece of advice I think I would go with is to say that you need to be sure that you are homeschooling, that you're not just there because you don't want them in public school or in Christian school, but you're actually doing homeschooling. You
have to do the work.
You have to do it, and not, like Jenny said, to the extreme maybe of doing every single thing exactly. Do first page and we're not going to be through with the subject till we're on the last page. There were times that we did the whole book, and there were times we didn't. I knew the kid had it, and we just went on. But I just really am a strong believer of if it's not for you, then don't do it. Because it's a harm to the child not to have any kind of schooling or education. It's harm to their self-esteem as they get older. Mm-hmm. They don't feel they can go to college. They don't feel like they're smart.
And we grew up with some people who
that
didn't homeschool, and their children paid the price for that. And we grew up with some kids who they maybe over homeschooled, pushed their kids too much, and then those kids ended up kind of rebelling against the education system. So I think there's a good
flexibility
line and a good balance in that. But you definitely have to do the work, or your kid's not going to learn. And the key is that they're progressing.
Right.
Like, you just want to make sure that they're progressing every year, even if they're not on, like if they're in 3rd grade and maybe they're on a 2nd grade level, as long as they're progressing, that's what's really important. Right. So next question, how do you homeschool with babies and toddlers? This was my biggest question that I got.
I didn't have a real hard time with it because I had an older child. Jennifer was older when Anna came, but before Jennifer was that much older, we had Isaiah. He was probably 3.5 years difference from being our second one, and he would just get his little toys by us, and he has that personality. He's a little bit laid back, so that was no problem. He just played quietly, and that wasn't a problem. But then when Anna came, because there was 6.5 years difference between her, it was a little bit different. But Jennifer would take her to the other room and do something with her, or read to her when she was done with hers. It just really, if you don't stress about it, it really kind of works itself out. I mean, it's life. We're at home, the kids are at home, they play, all of a sudden you say, oh, homeschooling, and then we all got to sit up straight and do just that. That's not how it is. So for us, it was fine. I don't know how it was for you, Jen.
I've had friends who just, took off two or 3 months when they had a baby, even if it was in March, instead of July or whatever, and just kind of rearranged their summer to kind of have that time to get used to the new baby in the house. So that's important, to give yourself grace in that postpartum time, because sometimes you don't know how long it's going to take you to recover.
You don't know what kind of baby you're going to have, if they're going to be easy or not so easy.
How the older kids are going to respond.
But
and
you can still read to them and do some things like that,
Yeah. But sometimes just rearranging your school schedule to accommodate that is helpful. And then, like you said, we took advantage of naps when the babies were taking 2 solid naps a day. Then we would focus that time. Anything that was really like reading or math that we needed to really concentrate on, we tried to do those things while the babies were napping. And then the rest of the things that we could do as a group, or while I was holding or nursing the baby or whatever, we would do the things like science and history, or projects that I could put them on independently. And then as I got to be older toddlers, we would teach them how to sit and play quietly. And all kids are different because of personalities. Mine were more laid back and would sit still pretty well after a certain amount of time. But we did a lot of, I made a bunch of things called busy bags. I don't even know if you can Google those anymore, but we did all kinds of little DIY toys that we put in Ziploc bags, and they could only pull those out during school time. And, just having Legos or whatever, depending on their age, whatever they can play with quietly. But we had certain things they could pull out during school.
But only during school time, because then it's like a fun new thing, and they know that that's the exciting new toys they get to play with during school. Yeah.
And even when they stopped taking naps, we would still have a quiet time in the afternoon. For the ones that were not napping, they still had to go to their room for a little bit of time, just to give them some time to be by themselves and be quiet. And so we kept up that even after they got rid of their naps. So that kind of helped us have a little more time to do one-on-one with the older ones that needed focused instruction.
Teaching them to play independently is really, really important, because I feel like a lot of parents, they want to play with them, or they've kind of trained them to watch TV, and that kind of stuff can be really hard to break that once you start that. So just trying to teach them to play independently, just say, no, mommy can't play with you right now. You have to play by yourself for a little bit. And sometimes you can feel that parent guilt for doing that, but you got to remind yourself that that's very healthy for the child, and that's really going to be the only way you get homeschool done with your other ones, is to really teach them to play independently, your toddlers. And then with newborns, you just got to give yourself grace upon grace upon grace, because that's a hard season, but it can also be a really beautiful season if you're just not stressing yourself out about every little thing. So when I had Michael this time last year, I had him right at the end of our school year, and then so I had the summer to kind of adjust to everything, and then we started school when he was like 3 months old. And that was really good, because we had a little bit of an adjustment period. And I would recommend, I know one of my friends just did this, that even though she had the baby in December, she still took like 2 or 3 months off of school so she could learn the baby and everybody could adjust. And then they started school back. And I think that is really helpful too, because you just need a minute to learn everything and see how the baby's gonna do and just figure stuff out, and have a minute for a break. And then once it starts back, you just have to give yourself grace and realize if everything doesn't get done, it'll be fine. And you know, if you need to add a few months at the end of the year to kind of catch up, you can do that. If the whole textbook doesn't get finished, that's okay too. Like, you just have to really just give yourself grace, and like you were saying, not make yourself feel like you have to check every single box. There'll be seasons where you can do that, and there'll be seasons where you just can't physically check all the boxes. You just don't have enough hours in the day, enough hands, enough help, and it's okay. There's grace in that. And especially when your kids are little, like once they get to middle school and high school, you have more of things you have to get done. When they're little bitty, you don't have to get every single thing done every single day.
And so many things are repetitive, you know, up through 5th, 6th grade, that if they don't catch it in one year, most likely you'll be able to catch it the next year. So.
And ask for help. If you really have a day where you're just done, call your mama up and say, can you come get these children for an hour? I just need a minute to relax and not have to think about everything for a minute, and just pull myself together. And just don't be afraid to ask for help. That's the biggest thing for moms with newborns, is we don't ask for help enough, and we should, because people really do want to help.
I think flexibility is what I'm hearing in all seasons. If you've got somebody in the hospital or there's been a death in the family, that to me is the advantage of homeschooling too, because you can do it in the car on the way. You can get grandmama to go over something with them. You can do something. It's more flexible. It's not like just having a note, go to school, and you're not getting any studies, or they send homework home. Well, what good is that? They send it home and you still got to do it. So it's the same thing. But I think flexibility is a really big thing that I wish somebody had told me a little bit more, because I would feel guilt if I didn't do everything. And
well, coming from teaching public school too, you think you have to go from August to April, May, but you really don't. You can start school like we're going to do in July and be done by late March or beginning of March. You can go all the way through the summer. If you want to take all of December off, you can do that. Like, it's the way you do it is up to you.
so you can take vacations when the rates, vacation rentals are lower, then just do it right in the midsummer or right when other schools are doing their spring and fall breaks.
Yeah. Well, in true us fashion, we got a little chatty in that video, and it was a lot longer than we had planned. So we're gonna make this into 2 parts. So today you saw part 1 of my interview with my mom and my sister, and on Wednesday I will be posting part 2. So stay tuned for that. And thank you guys so much for sticking with us, watching this video. I hope it encouraged you. I hope it gave you some inspiration and ideas and some fuel to keep going. And look for our next video on Wednesday. Be sure that you give this video a thumbs up before you go, and subscribe to my channel if you want to. Thanks, guys. Story of my life.
Pretty much from people.
You're doing really good. Keep up the good work. It just fell off.
The bullets and toys just came showering off the mantle.
We had to shove all the toys to this side of the room, and now they're falling back on us. Everybody wave!